Welcome, everyone. Happy afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jen Jordan. I lead content and thought leadership at Insight Partners. I also organize the Scale Up AI conference coming up this November 12th, which features keynotes from L.A.K. Miller and Andrew Ng. As a preview to Scale Up, this amazing event coming up, I'm so thrilled to introduce this fireside session today. We have SAP Managing Director of SAP Labs US, Global Head of BTP Innovation, Yaad Oren, and Insight Partners Director Louis Tugwell with us today. During our session today, we're pleased to offer you 35% off a virtual ticket for Scale Up AI. You'll see the code and website appear right here on screen. And with that, please welcome our speakers to the stage. Over to you, Louis.
Thanks, Jen, and welcome everyone to Scale Up AI Soundbites, an engaging series of AI-centric LinkedIn live sessions featuring prominent leaders from Insight Partners' ecosystem that are changing the future of AI. These talks set the stage nicely for Scale Up AI, one of the first global conferences that brings together the top AI builders, executives, luminaries, and innovators. Insight Partners is thrilled to welcome SAP as a scale-up partner this year, and I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to interview Yaad Oren, MD at SAP Labs US, and as Jen mentioned, Global Head of SAP BTP. As many of you know, SAP are one of the world's largest enterprise software companies. I'm Louis, a director here in the Ignite team at Insight Partners, and we partner with global enterprises like SAP, where we help them in two ways. With so many tech solutions in the market today, we work with them to understand their priorities, their challenges, and broader tech strategy, and curate matches with companies in our portfolio. And given technology has never moved so fast, and with nearly 30 years of experience investing in software, we have a unique perspective on the enterprise tech landscape, which we share with our ecosystem through creative programs and events. So Yaad, it's great to be here with you today. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about your roles at SAP?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you, Louis. It's great being here. I'm super excited. In a nutshell, my role in SAP consists of two parts. First of all, I'm the managing director of SAP Labs in the US, when we oversee the entire development operation across our 14 locations in the US. We have around 5,000 individuals building great products, especially around cloud, AI, and advanced technologies. And we are very proud to make sure we can get the best out of the US region with all the academia, startup, and so forth to the success of our company, but also create a great workplace for employees in the US. And the second role, I'm also oversee a global R&D unit, which is called the BTP Innovation. Very simply put, we are doing two things. We are responsible to build the AI in a platform business in the PaaS layer, which is called the Business Technology Platform, putting AI in solution like integration tools, right, developer tools, everything which is a part of the platform. And the second role is still the R&D role. We have like a disruptive innovation unit, something like, the long-term innovation arm for enterprise, if you will, when we try to pave the way for what will be 5 to 10 years in the industry. In this regards, we have teams like quantum computing, blockchain, very advanced AI, all the way to RVR and everything that can really help shape the next generation of enterprise software. So very happy to be here and be part of this discussion.
Fantastic. Well, let's jump straight into it. So as we see enterprises move from experimenting with AI into more business critical and perhaps more complex workloads, what are some of the challenges you're seeing them face when trying to adopt AI technology more broadly?
Yeah, first of all, it's a very accurate observation. We are seeing really a landslide of how many enterprises start to move into production-based AI workload. And SAP by itself, we have over 24,000 customers running AI, which we are very proud of. And the value they're getting for increasing productivity or reduction of cost is just abnormal. I think that it's very important to understand, first of all, what is the formula as we see it to be successful with AI in production. Because once you define how success can look like, then you can really understand what are the missing skills and what are the missing, let's say, what really are the needs, right, for organization to get there. And in SAP, we see it in a very simple manner. To be successful with AI in enterprises, you should follow what we call the 3 Rs. The first R is being relevant. This is a very important point. A lot of the AI is a great technology, right? It's also relatively expensive, and sometimes to solve a business problem which doesn't justify this great AI mechanism, it's like shooting a fly with a cannon, right? So first R out of 3, it needs to be relevant. You really need to address a big business problem that justifies the use of AI, and let alone generative AI, right? I had the privilege to be a developer also in the previous generation of AI, the narrow AI. Sometimes you can use different technologies, but AI need to be relevant to solve a business problem. The second thing, which is equally important, is the reliability. This is the second R. We know a lot about the industry, what's going on with how AI sometimes is not accurate, is hallucinate, right? And AI need to be reliable. This goes to many different areas that we can elaborate later on about the data readiness and so forth. But AI must be reliable. And although we're seeing a lot of great momentum and even hype around AI, we need to remember we need to take it very seriously, right? And make sure the technology is not only flashy below the iceberg, but we make sure that down below everything is ready in the engine to make sure that it's accurate and can drive a business outcome. So we said relevant as the first R, we said reliable as the second R, and the last R is of course responsible. AI, when we deploy it, especially at scale, needs to take into consideration all the ethical aspects, the IP and other things we keep hearing in the media too often recently, right? And this is why the responsibility of AI is also very important, and without having all this in place, of course, it's not good for society, but also it cannot help to provide change in an enterprise. So if you look at relevant, reliable, and responsible, I can quickly say what are the 3 main challenges we are seeing on the way to get there. The first one is very, very connected to the first R. Sometimes we see businesses comes and they don't really have in mind the business problems that justifies AI. They want to use the technology, sometimes for the sake of technology, which I respect. I'm a technologist myself, but you need to come with a very well-defined business problem and also define the outcome you want to get out of this. So the first point, really good strategy regarding not only the technology, but also what kind of business problem you will use these great shovels, right, in order to reach all this wonderful goal. The second point, what we are seeing technically, it goes to the reliability. Many enterprises, and I'm just saying this, have a poor data quality, right? Regardless to AI, the data layer that they have, data is not standardized, it's not clean enough. The user can put in the database without any validation. Oh, I'll put this customer address there and the phone number in this table. And then when the AI wants to learn and run, it's like junk in, junk out, right? So garbage in, garbage out. You need to make sure the data is very high quality. And this goes to a big ocean of methodologies from data governance, data quality, and so forth. But the second point, after the business definition of a problem, is the data quality. And the last part is the lack of AI expertise. Here it's very interesting. I think we are hearing a lot about, of course, AI and data scientists and machine learning, right, expert. But one of the things I don't think the enterprise taking enough into account, it's also in the end user side, not only the technical side. We are missing expertise, right? I'm going to sound like my father and says in my generation, right? You need to be trained in order to be a data analyst, right? You need to read reports and create an opinion, send it to your CFO and so forth. Today, with the generative AI, anyone can create a tsunami of document, and you give people access to a nuclear power reactor to create so much content. So also the end users need to be dealt with this amount of data and to train how to really work in a reality where data is by order of magnitude bigger. So the skills both from technical side and end user is the last point. And if I summarize, relevant, reliable, and responsible, this is the formula in our opinion to drive success in enterprise. And the main challenges are the definition of the problem, the poor data quality, and the skills both on the technical side and end user side.
Fantastic. Yeah, concurs with exactly what we're seeing at Ignite. And just clicking into the last point on expertise and perhaps some sort of knowledge deficiency, what can enterprises do to address that point specifically? And what do you see in any specific qualities or skills that enterprises are looking for in particular individuals?
Yeah, and this is also a great point, and we have a lot of, as I said, we have 24,000 customers running AI at scale, and And this, we observed a lot how they really get into the skills topics, and we identify 3 main points. First of all, Louis, it's very important to acknowledge in the leadership level that this is a issue. I wouldn't say a problem, but this is a priority for the company. So I'm telling you already, from our observation and experience, without having executive or C-level leadership commitments for this, it will be a very hard journey to do, because you need to start upskilling the generation for something which is a book which was unwritten, right? Like something, how the future reality of working with AI. So it needs to be leadership commitments. It's the first point. The second point, we need to start looking into different upskilling methodologies and learning across the organization. It's a big topic, but I would like to also mention one thing we're doing, and it's very beneficial for us, a connection to research institute, right? We have so many different institutes that have expertise on this. For example, we are partnering with Stanford on that. And this is something that helps us a lot, not only to train the current generation, but also be prepared for the innovation to come. So you need to build, after the executive sponsorship, it's very important to have a learning mechanism and really help to create a technical training programs to start building the expertise on the technical side, but also on the end user side, right? And this is what you can do with different institutes. I gave the academia as an example, but there are actually very many great bodies and organizations that are driving this. And the last point, which I would advise, which is very interesting, is about also the soft skilling and develop some kind of critical thinker approach. If we go back to the previous question, all the responsibility aspect, and we get this question a lot, right? Whether the machines will take all our jobs and replace the humans, right? One thing that developers need to develop and upskill themselves, right? And also the end users is having the skills to identify the bias and reliability issues and also act upon it. This goes most into being a critical thinker, not only to tweak and develop the algorithms, but really to identify the nip in the bud, any level of inequality and thing that's coming in early stages before it scales. So there is also need for soft skill training, right? And learn more people about diversity, inclusion, and bias. As I said earlier, of course, it's important for our society, but also for enterprise themselves, right? You need to have the users identified it, and this goes more into humanitarian training you need to do, because it's help to build the relevant, reliable, and responsible AI. So if I summarize, it's really around the championship in the leadership. It's about building both technical skills program and end user, with institute like the academia and so forth, but also deploy some sort of the soft skill learning about humanitarian aspects, because eventually it's the human that navigate the machine towards success.
Yeah, fascinating. You completely agree. And we are 15 minutes in. We haven't yet mentioned regulation.
Yeah.
So we'll go there. And obviously, it's a sort of balancing act, a struggle between AI regulations that, of course, are varying globally now, and the ability to continuously innovate on behalf of your customers. And SAP is fairly unique in the sense, obviously, you're headquartered in Germany. When there's tighter EU regulations, you serve a global customer base, and you of course have competitors who I'm sure you're looking to stay ahead. So how do you stay ahead? How do you balance that staying ahead of regulation, continue to innovate on behalf of your customers, and stay ahead of competition?
Yeah, so it's another good point, Louis, especially in a very good timing, right, with the different regulation and what's going on in the US at the moment. I think it's a tale of two cities, right? And the first one, like you said, SAP is in a very interesting position as a German-based, European-based company. And I know it's kind of hard to imagine, but me with my ponytail and heavy accent, I'm talking so much with the Senate and politicians from the US. They want to learn, just like you said, what we can learn from Europe and what to do and what also to avoid. And this is where it's very important, if I give you a bottom line, that we need to protect people. There needs to be regulation. The technology, as I said, if you let it off just run by itself, there can be bias and other things which can discriminate this person when they take a mortgage or hire a different gender and so forth. But one point, there need to be regulation. On the other hand, we need to be very careful not to stifle innovation. And this is, I'm telling you already, that the outcome is a lot of hard work on developing a framework which know how to define where there is high risk scenarios and where there is areas where AI can be more liberal, let's put it this way. And what we are talking, and I can tell, I talked to dozens of policymakers in the US only in the recent months, and this is where we're seeing a lot of, and this is where I'm very optimistic, a lot of desire for learning how the technology work and where we need to put the let's say where the buck is stopping. If I give you a very short example, because this is a fascinating topic, we can talk for hours. AI in human resource scenarios, right? You definitely don't want the AI to hire and fire employees, so the machine won't hire and fire people without any human in the loop. This is a high risk use case when it involves employee data. But on the other side, you don't want to eliminate any employee data from reaching AI algorithms, because when it comes to training and developing and creating more jobs, AI can be the great equalizer, right? It can create a custom campaign to anyone from any different area to learn how to develop this individual toward their desired destiny. So the truth is in the middle, and this is very important. I really envision a place where we're going to be able to save the democracy, really protect the people, but there will be areas where we acknowledge that this is where we can give more freedom, right, for AI to build a better, let's say, solution that can provide benefit to human with very low risk. So this is a lot of hard work and defined to build a framework where there is high risk scenarios and where there is low risk scenario, but not stop everything and regulate everything in a very draconian way.
Agreed. And as you mentioned, this is a topic we could speak about for hours and days probably. But a final question from me, Yaad, is how do you see large enterprise companies or enterprise software companies like SAP and collaborating with perhaps some slightly smaller scale-ups and startups like those in our portfolio to tackle some of the solutions that we've discussed today?
Yeah, like I think here I can talk not only on behalf of SAP, but behalf of the entire industry, and you can see it a lot in what's happened in the recent 2 years, ever since generative AI became popular. It's now even more important than ever for companies in order to be competitive, right, and to bring the latest and greatest from the ecosystem to work with startups, especially the ones that are more scaled and can go into the enterprise market to provide the reliable SLA and so forth. So in order to get really up to speed with all the innovation, I can say one thing about the companies. You see the birth of many teams like my team, like front runner teams, right, that are going out there like the SWAT team in front of the enterprise army that try to collaborate with those new kids in the block and bring them kind of a sandboxing experience next to the enterprise, and then in early stage understand what they can bring into the enterprise. Enterprise also should get better altogether in working with startup, being more agile. You know, if you are a multi-billion company, sometimes you can take things a little bit slower, but those, you see a lot of bursts of this new front runner arms, and my team is one of them. When we work with a lot of startup, by the way, sometimes it results also in the corporate fund, help to fund these investors, if the startups together with investors. So this is one point, and it's very important. Just in 10 more seconds about this, a very good way for us is also to use open source that startups are bringing in order to have like a risk-free way to test some startup offering and then maybe go to the premium version with them. But what I also want to say, and we can finish this with what we started, for startup, a small tip that I observe after seeing, like, and you know it, Louis, because we collaborate like 50 to 100 startup a year. Startup also need to have an opinion about the enterprise they want to collaborate with. Just coming and say, okay, we have this great product, without understanding if this is synergetic, competing, or how it's aligned with a different offering, it's very important for them. So I don't expect any startup to put effort to build something, because we need to be super respectful for any startup time to build their business, but at least have an opinion in any enterprise they would like to collaborate. Remember the 3 R's, how it can become relevant to the startup as well. And this is some of pre-homework any startup can do before they met some of the companies to say, you have this X offering in your portfolio, dear enterprise. With what I'm doing, we're going to create 1 + 1 = 3. And this will be much more efficient. But again, the bottom line, now more than ever, enterprise would like to collaborate with customers, and front runner teams like mine, engaging early stage customers, using open source and so forth, is becoming happily much more scaling in our industry.
Great, fantastic. Yeah, we love working with you and the front running team for sure. It's been a pleasure, Yaad. Thanks for your time, and thanks for those who've for tuned in as well. As a reminder, Scale Up AI takes place on November 12th, which is next Tuesday, and we hope many of you can join us. But thanks for watching, Yaad. Thanks.